to Twisted Tales.
Twisted Tales, Twisted Tales, hell, blood and bones and no contrails. Twisted Tales, hell, true got teeth and drags their nail. Urban riding, back road sin, dead men talking through the wind. Cursed objects kill a law. Once you hear it, you want more. No fairy dust, no happy end, just how the nightmare really went. Turn it up, don't ask why.
Good evening, everybody. This is Jeremy from Twisted Tales. Tonight on a special Easter edition. Yep, got the ears going on. Got a little, the Easter bunny got kind of fresh with me, so I took his ears as a souvenir. Tonight's episode, April Fool's Day, Easter coming up. Great time. I have a guest tonight. She is a wonderful human being. She is a paranormal investigator, psychic medium. She also is the co-host of her own great show. I would like to bring on Miss Raven Wolf. Please join the show.
Well, hello.
Hello. Thank you very much. Hey, Ross, how's it going? Brother, you'll be on one of these days. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you for tuning in, brother, and I will see you soon. Thank you very much. Raven, thank you very much for coming on tonight. I know you got, everybody's been very busy this time of year and all the time, especially with having your own show. The Medium Frequency with Chris is an amazing show you guys got rocking on Mondays. Let's start off with people on here that might not know much about you. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Raven Wolf. I am a psychic medium. I do paranormal investigating. I work with different teams throughout the United States to connect with those that are on the other side. I also help with healing work. I teach in Salem, Massachusetts. I am a medium out here. I have a show called The Medium Frequency with Christopher Brown. I do pet mediumship, and I have a deep love for just being able to help people through grief support and help them with finding inner healing and being able to see the beautiful souls that they are.
Wow, that is amazing. You have quite the amount of things that you do, that's for sure. Okay, bunny ears were cute for now, but I can't deal with them anymore. It's time to get rid of those ridiculous things. It was just something fun to amuse myself with. I had a different pair on earlier when I was on Nate's show earlier, and now I figured, what the heck, I bought two pairs and I might as well wear a different one tonight. It's amazing. So I was kind of curious with all of your vast knowledge, when did you first discover you had your abilities? Like when did it actually come to you?
It was at a young age. When it comes to connecting with other energies that are not necessarily on this side of the plane, it would have been when I was really young. But the first real understanding of people being on the other side was when I went to a junior high, and there was a girl that unfortunately had been murdered. And I started seeing her after she passed away, and I wasn't a close friend with her. In fact, she was known to be a little bit of a bully at the school that we went to. However, right before she passed, she showed an act of kindness. And I thought, well, maybe there's some things going on in her life that I'm not consciously aware of. And maybe, just maybe, I could be a little understanding, even though I don't like her. But unfortunately, the weekend came, and the next Monday, I had been in the school gym getting ready for PE, and this girl in one of the girls' bathrooms was unfortunately laughing about the fact that this girl had passed away and she was an even bigger bully. And I was really upset. I don't care who the person is, nobody deserves to undergo anything like that. And shortly after that night, I started seeing her everywhere I went. I saw her at school, I saw her at home, and she would try to talk to me. And in the beginning, it was like very hard to understand what she was saying. But over time, I started to actually hear her. And so it is an unfortunate case because it hasn't been solved. I would
Yeah.
have liked to have helped with that, but sometimes a person can be too close to a situation to be the right person to help with that.
Okay. Wow. It's really, really amazing. I do have my things with being a clairvoyant, but I got my gifts way later in life. I didn't have them growing up like you did. That's an amazing, amazing story. It's nice that you did show compassion to her, even if she was really, really awful. And I guess it's not always true in life that when you pass, you're going to be the same style person that you are on this side versus the other side. Maybe that last ditch good effort actually made her a better person on the other side of the veil. I guess everybody gets a last chance to change their ways, so to speak. You probably know as well as I do that you encounter spirits that are the same here that they are over there. So if they were kind of grumpy here or they were mean here, that you do encounter mean ones on the other side as well.
Correct.
Do you notice that as well when you interact?
Yeah, just because someone crosses over doesn't mean that they're automatically going to go through this major shift and change. Sometimes they stay the exact way that they are on this side,
Yeah.
and it becomes one of those situations where you're going to deal with both positive and not so positive spirits.
No, you're absolutely right. And when I first got in, hey Jeremy, how's it going, buddy? Jeremy runs. Hey, hey, there's Gwen. I know we were having issues with the comment section for a little bit because Gwen had to take care of some things, and you know, hopefully everybody gets a chance to be on here. Oh, my 4-year-old. Hey Nate, thanks for coming back on, dancing to the theme song. She says she loves the entrance song. Yeah, that's really, really cool. And yeah, I gotta always credit Danny Perez. He made that wonderful song for me. I really appreciate it. Vinny, how's it going, brother? Nice to see you. The Mini Vinny Show. Hey, Matt. Matt has been one of my most favorite go-to guys. He always comes on the show. He's an amazing guy too. He and his wife do paranormal work, and they have their own haunted location out in Wisconsin. That I hope to someday actually get a chance to go out there. But I don't fly very often because I'm not too comfortable on small planes. Those chairs are way too tiny for me. But
Mhm.
oh my god. So when did you make the shift from, like, because you said been doing a lot of work when Matt and Elizabeth and his wife rock out to the theme song every time it comes on too. So when did you make the shift to getting involved in the paranormal side of it and bringing your gifts to help out with investigations? Like, when did you first get involved in the actual paranormal field itself?
Well, it's kind of interesting because I had started out in the metaphysical field to begin with. And then I was in Utah and I was working at a
Hi, Kristen.
store. Hi. I was working at a store as a medium, and there was an event that they were holding for paranormal investigators to come to. And I was offered a table, and I thought, well, that would be a great way to talk about what I do, with people that come through. And I
Absolutely.
had no idea what the paranormal actually was, funnily
Right.
enough. Even though I had experienced it since childhood,
Hmm.
but I didn't know the terminology. So I go to this event, and all of a sudden I see all these people setting up their tables, and they have these gadgets, and they have like um shirts and, all kinds of
Hi,
cool
Thomas.
things. And I was just like, oh, well, this is really interesting. And they were like, have you never been to a paranormal event before? And I was like, no, I've never been to one. And I got invited to my first paranormal investigation in
Yeah.
Utah, which was at the Family Tree, which unfortunately is no longer a restaurant. But it was a great
Okay.
place for paranormal investigating in
Wow.
Utah. Hmm. And so I went and I started communicating with the ghosts, and I was like, with the spirits that were there. And they were like, have you ever thought about being a medium in the paranormal? And I was like, well, no, because I had
Yeah.
been doing mediumship this entire time and tarot and teaching all those other classes. But then I started to understand what the paranormal was because they would explain things. I was like, well, I experienced that when I was a child, or I experienced that at different points in my life.
Yeah.
So I'm 43 now. It was in my 30s.
Oh, wow. I
Hmm.
mean, I gotta be honest with you. I first got involved in the paranormal probably about, now it's gotta be about 15, 16 years ago, when I'm 52. So it was in my 30s as well when I first started getting involved in the paranormal, similar to what you were doing. And you know, it's amazing because you're already doing all this metaphysical work, like doing readings and tarot cards and connections, and all of a sudden you decided to branch out and actually go on a real investigation. And so, what was your actual first impression when you actually did an investigation? And to me, it's interesting because you're using your gifts to help and probably help validate their equipment, and they're enjoying your input because you're giving them something that they're not usually using in an investigation. I feel that it's good to have both people who that communicate with the other side with the veil, as well as those who use the equipment, and to give it a well-rounded thing in an investigation. So, what was your first impression on all these gadgets and gizmos and stuff like those?
I'm giggling a little bit because I, I wasn't really sure what to expect. I met this person named Paul Welch, and he's awesome. He's been in the paranormal field for like a really long time. And he was like, well, have you heard of Echovox? And I was like, what is Echovox? He's like, it's how the ghosts communicate with us. And I was like, what is that?
Yeah,
So he actually put it on my phone and then helped me to adjust all the different what do you call it, channels, to be
exactly.
able
Yeah.
to
Hmm.
consistently hear things. And then I saw, what was it, the K2 and
Yeah.
the dowsing rods and
The REM pods and all of those kind
REM
of
pods
things.
and all these things. And I was like, so what do you use these for? And so they had to break it down for me at the time and be like,
Mhm.
oh, they can touch it. And then this gadget goes off.
Yeah.
And so while we're in this investigation, I'm actually seeing these spirits literally going towards the box and putting tapping the REM pod. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, so some of these items are actually very legitimate,
Yeah.
because they would communicate in different ways. And it was kind of funny because I would hear something and I would communicate what I heard from a specific spirit, and then it would come through the box. And I was like, okay, so I do believe that this can work. It was
Absolutely.
kind of cool.
Yeah. There's no way I'm 52. Yes, I'll be 53 this year. It's amazing. It's hard to believe that I've actually survived this long. Sometimes I wonder about that myself. But um, yeah, when I first got involved in it and I started seeing all these different, I was really into that part of it. But then when my abilities started kicking in and I was able to communicate directly like you can, and I can see them, I stopped. I started backing away from the technology side, and I started, like, for me, my dowsing rods, my pendulums, my own abilities, and occasionally I'll use a Ouija board if my wife lets me do it, because when I touch those things, weird shit happens. To be honest with you,
Hmm.
they have a mind of their own. Once I put my energy into a Ouija board, it just goes wee, and there's all sorts of crazy stuff. So, it's but no, I started backing off from the technology because I really that ghost boxing with the I can't stand that. It like hurts my ears after like a couple of minutes. thankfully I get to learn things like a portal box where they get rid of
Mhm.
all of that crap, but you actually get to hear the voices come through it, and that thing is an amazing device too.
Mhm.
You know, the Echo Box or those word bank ones that it'll spit out a word here or there or whatever. I don't quite understand how all of those work. I mean, I've seen it work firsthand. I've seen a spirit get mad at an Echo, but the Echo Box, actually, I saw it get mad at Russ's Echo Box, and it threw his tablet right off the top of a gravestone. And we were actually at a grave site in Connecticut. We were investigating with some people, and it threw his tablet right off the top of the tombstone while we were sitting right there. You know, it was pretty nuts. You know, um,
Mhm.
so you had your first experience out in was it Utah? You said it was there. So how
Yeah,
did
it
you make
was
the
in Utah.
transition from Utah to Massachusetts? Because I mean, obviously you've been out here for a while. There's a lot of crazy stuff out here too. You know,
There
especially.
is. So I went from Utah to Arizona. I was in
Okay.
Arizona for 7 years. And then my dear friend that I teach at a university, or did teach at a university with, was like, come check out Massachusetts. Like, I think you'll fall in love with the area. There was a lot of history. So I came and visited, and I fell in love with the architecture, the history, the energy, just everything about the place, but I
Yeah.
never thought that I would end up moving here. Well, I went back, and about 6 months to a year later, I finally felt the shift because there were changes that had happened in my life. And my godfather was like, you've got to follow your dream and go out there and see what it holds for you. And
Right.
I had felt this draw here for a very, very long time. So I ended up buying a one-way ticket with my best friend, who is also my roommate,
Hmm.
um, on the phone. And I ended up flying out here. And now I've been here for, it'll be 3 years in October.
Oh, amazing. You know,
Mhm.
and from what I said, you lived in Salem for a stretch, right? Which is
Yes, I lived in Salem for a year, well, 2 of the years, and then this year we moved to our new place, which is just over the hill from Salem, which is in Beverly.
oh wow, which is also active as well. I mean, that whole area,
Mhm.
Salem, Danvers, Beverly, it's I love Salem. Actually, we're Gene and I are planning to come to Salem in a few weeks. I think at the end of the month we're going to be up there visiting because I love to go to Salem. It's been a year or two since I've been up there. I love walking around up on Essex Street. So I like to spend some time at the graveyard area. I love to go
Mhm.
visit visiting the witches memorial area. Jean is actually a descendant of Rebecca Nurse, so she has that tie to the Salem trials up there.
Oh
Yeah, Jeremy, you
wow.
know what? And every time I go to Salem, I feel my energy get cleansed. The minute I park the car and start walking, you know, around Essex Street and just, you know, that Salem to me is amazing. You know, whether you're going there to visit like the House of Seven Gables or you're going down to the wharf or you're just, you know, whatever you're doing, it's an amazing place to actually go to. Now, do you work in Salem still
I
or
do. I
yeah?
do. So I work at Pentagram. So right where the memorial is for where the graveyard is, right
Yeah.
across the way is Pentagram. And so I do mediumship there. I do tarot there. But then in Beverly, I also work at our sister store, which is also owned by Leanne and Tim, called Zodiac Tea Room. And there we do tea leaf readings for people. We do mediumship. We do tarot. We can do classes there. We can do seances there.
Oh,
So I work at both locations.
yeah. You just mentioned something, and Matt was saying that Salem in October is insane. Yes, I agree with you, brother. I went there one time, actually twice. I've been there on Halloween night one time, like 20 something years ago. And I would never do that again ever. That was the most I could not stand it because you're walking asshole to elbow with people like arm in arm going down. I like to go to Salem for the other 10 and a half months out of the year. I don't like to go up there anytime between late September and the first week in November. I try to avoid going there during that whole time frame
Smart.
because, although Gene and I actually went to the speakeasy at the Salem Cinema last year.
Mhm.
I think it was Edgar Allan Poe. They did an Edgar Allan Poe speakeasy inside of the cinema, which was really
Mhm.
cool. We did that, and that was really fun to do. You know, so you were touching on your sister location. Could you explain tea leaf readings to me? I've always been kind of interested. I just don't understand. I don't quite understand the whole concept on that.
So, tea leaf readings are we take loose leaf teas
Mm-hmm.
and you get hot water and you pour it over the hot or over the leaves. And the
Yeah.
people that sit in front of you, they're going to slowly drink the tea and try to keep as much of the leaves in the cup as possible.
Okay.
What happens is when you turn the teacup upside down on top of like a little tiny, the little saucer,
Yeah.
and you turn it 3 times and you let it sit for a moment and then flip it back up, what happens is the leaves make different kinds of images within the teacup.
Okay.
So you are looking at the tea leaves for different images that will pop up so that you can give a proper reading to the person that's sitting in front of you.
Oh wow.
So they could essentially set an intention for some of the things that they'd like to hear about, but the tea basically tells you what you get to hear,
Oh wow.
which is pretty fun. And we do groups at our store, which is
Mhm.
pretty amazing. We can do, we've done bachelorette parties, we've done bachelor parties, we've done all kinds of things. So it's
That's really
pretty
cool.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, because I had seen it advertised at different conventions, or I've seen it in different stores, and I was always curious. I'm like, how does tea leaves get? I mean, I've had a bone reading before. Like somebody did like bone readings, and
Hmm.
I mean, I get it. Um, I don't necessarily let people read me very often because it's hard for me because usually when the stuff happens, messages get bounced back from the people who are reading, and I actually end up reading them, and it's kind of it's an awkward situation. I don't know why it happens, but it does. It's like I'll be like I could be. I'm not saying you, but I'm like say that I was getting a reading from somebody and they were doing the cards. All of a sudden,
Hmm.
I see the cards that they put out, and I'm actually getting message for them through the cards. And they're like, "How the hell are you getting message for me if I'm supposed to be doing it for you? Shouldn't you be on the other side of this table from us, and you should be doing the readings?" I'm like, I don't necessarily know how it works per se, but for some reason, it's weird for me, and you know, it's hard for me because I've seen some readers that are really good, and I've had a couple done that I felt were quote unquote phoning it in. I'm going to be nice about it. I'm going to say phoning it in because I don't, when you get like a legitimate reading versus one that they're just throwing the greatest hits out there to see what sticks to the wall. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm trying to use terminology so that it doesn't actually bury people because I really don't want to. I don't believe in negative energy at all. But I've actually had a couple of readings that it felt like they were phoning it in. You get the
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about. So
Hmm.
it's I've never had one done by you. Maybe someday we can actually get together because I mean I know that you do great, and I would actually be down for doing a reading with you because I know that my wife said you did a great job with her the time that she sat with you, and I would actually probably be down for doing it at some point.
I would love that. That would be tons of fun to do. We could do a whole tea thing or we could do any kind of session.
As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't make a difference to me. Whatever you think is going to give the strongest or what the most natural outcome personally, because
Hmm.
like I've tried to, I do dabble in tarot cards myself a little bit. I mean, I have my golden tarot deck, and I have my I don't necessarily. I have an oracle deck, but I've never actually played around with it because I don't really understand it per se.
Hmm.
But I got like my animal tarot, my animal totem deck, and you know my favorite go to deck is my golden tarot deck. It was gifted to me by a fellow psychic medium, Kristen Capucci. I don't know if you know who she
Hmm.
is. She's a really nice person, and she actually gifted it to me at a convention one time. She's like, these cards are saying that they need to go to you, and she actually gave them to me. And you know what? They are an extension whenever I get a chance to play around with them. So when you do card readings, do you have a particular deck or two that actually like resonate with you directly, or?
So it first should be stated that I'm a collector. So I do collect different kinds of decks, and there
Okay.
are decks that are very personalized for me alone.
Mhm.
I don't bring those into my workplace.
Oh yeah.
But then I have decks that I will bring to work depending on what spirit is telling me. This is the specific tarot deck or oracle deck that I want you to bring. And usually I have a choice of two or three, and depending on the person, I know exactly which deck they're going to pick before they tell me which deck they're going to choose, because I like people to have choices. And sometimes when people come in for readings, it can be a situation where they're really nervous. And if they feel like they have the option to choose something, then it might help them to relax a little bit.
Oh, that's cool.
So, so I do usually have two or three decks. Right now, one of my favorite decks that I'm using for oracles is the Witching Hour Oracle, because it has a wolf on it.
Oh,
It's
cool.
actually a really, I don't know how well you can see that, but it's
Oh, yeah, I
actually
can
a
see it.
really
Yeah,
cool
that's really
deck.
cool. That's a cool looking deck right
Yeah.
there.
It actually is very deep, even though there's simplicity. Like the cards unfold like a story for me. It's like when you open a book and the book just puts all of the components and pieces together, and get visions of how they kind of interconnect and work together on top of the already basic meanings that the cards provide. Then
Okay.
I also, for tarot, I really am into the Alistair Crowley Thoth deck right now.
Oh, that's
It's
cool.
actually a very traditional deck
Yeah.
that a lot of people have used, and I have switched back and forth between different
Love it.
ones. But I'm attached to this deck, and they're big cards, so it's kind of funny because I have big hands,
Yeah.
and they're still kind of big for me. But I don't care. I like working with them.
Yeah, I have gigantic hands. I mean, I wear a size 15 ring. I have gigantic hands. I understand. Like, sometimes it feels weird. Like even shuffling a regular size deck of cards, it can feel like it's a tiny little deck. And I mean, how many decks do you actually have in your collection? Do you have a rough number? I mean, you said you're a collector. I mean, do you?
Over 100.
Oh my, that's an amazing collection.
Mm-hmm.
I think I own like 5 or 6 decks of cards. But for some reason, my mind always goes back to the Golden Tarot. Like if anybody ever asks me to pick a card, do like a couple of card draw from, I always am drawn back to the Golden Tarot deck. It just seems to be the one that resonates. That I can actually get the most clear answers through. Not that I know a lot about them, but whatever I do play around with it, it seems to be fairly accurate.
I find that when we go to what we're called to, it's going to do exactly what we need it to do.
That makes sense. That really does. So, going back to the paranormal aspect, tell me about some of your favorite places that you. Hey, Chris, how's it going, man? I can't
Hey,
wait to have you on the
Chris.
show next in May. I have Chris booked. I can't wait to have him on. We're going to talk about his music and all sorts of other crazy shit because that's just how I roll. Going back to the paranormal. Tell me about some of your favorite places that you've actually investigated, especially like some of the ones that you felt the most connected to that you've been to along your journey.
The Emperor's Theater in Utah is a big one. It was one of the next big locations that I had gone to, just because there was this really adorable couple that had passed away that was interacting with the group and I that I was with, and they were telling us their love story, and I'm like communicating what I'm hearing at the same time while it's going through the echo boxes, and
Right.
things are going off, and it was just a really memorable, fun place to be. But then I think the creepiest place that we went to, and I wouldn't say it was creepy so much as I get it, and I'll explain why.
Hmm.
We went to an asylum in Tooele, and we were told about this one room where there is a gentleman that turns the TV on and off. But if you went into his room without permission, you would
Yeah.
experience headaches, or there would be scratches or different things. And some people were just like, "Oh, I don't believe that that's going to happen." But they would walk into the room, and automatically I saw this older gentleman. He was a vet
Hmm.
that was sitting in a chair, and he was watching his TV screen, and people would come in and he got very upset, and he would just look at them, and then they would experience either a headache or they'd feel something scratch them, and there was
Yeah.
marks. But when I went to the door, I asked him, I said, "Can I please come in?" And his expression changed. He was actually quite delightful. He was like, "Yes, please come in." And so we had this conversation about like his grandkids, his family, how he really misses, certain foods and music and all these things, and all of the different, tools that people are bringing in. It's going off, and they're like, "How are you able to get so much communication?" Well, if we treat spirits as a human being, because
Yeah.
they are human, most of them, not all
Yes.
of them, most of them are spirits that have crossed over and they just want to be treated with respect, then we can go ahead and have these amazing conversations and interactions. So I loved the Tooele Asylum, but it was also very creepy, but it was also very like memorable, and it stuck with me. Also, I would say the Nevada State Prison. So I went there to do an investigation. It is not the active part of the prison. It is the non-active part of the prison, but they allow paranormal teams to come out, and that is in Nevada. And that place had huge amounts of activity. I would see certain people that had been in the jail that would be up on this bar swinging back and forth, and I'd be having conversations with them, and the lights would be going off, on and
Yeah.
off. So I would say the Nevada State Prison was probably the most active place that I have ever been to out of the many
Okay.
places I've been. But it was one of my favorites.
That's awesome. You know, and what about out here in the on the East Coast, like in Massachusetts or what? Have you had any interesting experiences in locations out here? And
So I've been to the train stations, a couple of the train stations, and I really enjoyed that. But I think my favorite place was the Satanic Temple in
oh, nice.
Salem. This was when we had the last Connecticut Paracon.
Yeah.
We were invited to go ahead and go in, and there were tremendous amounts of activity. I had some positive experiences upstairs in the library
Oh, wow.
with some of the spirits. Unfortunately, there were a couple situations downstairs that occurred, that um, that they handled really, really, really well, but there were some not so great spirits interacting.
Right.
Um, but it was handled really well. The people that run the events, both Charles and Thomas, are amazing, and
That's cool.
they were able to help with that healing process and making sure this specific individual was okay. So, yeah.
I mean, the Satanic Temple. Say what you want to about whatever. Dude. I've been to the Concord Colonial Inn several times. That place is very, very cool. I actually did. I stopped by to visit my good friend Sam Baltrusis when he was actually working there
Hmm.
as a front desk person. He was actually working there. I stopped in there like 4 o'clock in the morning to visit him before I was on my way to work because I worked right down the street at a hospital. And while we were sitting there chatting, you could actually hear the spirits talking at one of the little sidebars, and you actually hear a clink of like two beer steins like clinking together as they were
Hmm.
in there drinking, and that was like 3:30 in the morning when that happened. And I was like, oh shit! So this place
Oh,
is, I
wow.
mean, that place is pretty cool. I've never been to the Satanic Temple. It's on my list of places just to visit because the one time we actually went down there was during the pandemic and they had shut the damn thing down. We had walked all the way from downtown Salem all the way to the Satanic Temple and they were shut down. And it was like,
Mm-hmm.
damn it, all that walking for nothing. you know,
Right.
I don't like wasting steps, and it was definitely. I mean, it was a good day. It was a nice day out, realistically, and we had a good time up there with a bunch of people. But yeah, the Satanic Temple is definitely some place that I would like to go. And then I wanted to touch on one thing that you were. That's cool, Matt. You actually stayed the night at the Satanic Temple. Damn, that's pretty cool.
They
You know,
have a room that you can stay in that is absolutely incredible. Like, it's my dream bedroom, actually.
oh wow.
So,
Well,
yeah.
there was one thing you had mentioned a couple of times while you were telling me about your favorite locations, and it's something that I am very, very strong upon, is the treatment of spirits when you go into locations. And
Mhm.
paranormal investigators, I don't consider myself an investigator. I consider myself a paranormal communicator. I think we've had that conversation before, where I like to talk to them like I talk to you. How you doing? Da, 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 because asking the same questions that everybody always does about us, like, do you know you're dead and how did you die? Some of them don't even know that they're physically gone. You know,
Right.
their body's gone, but their spirit and their essence is still in the location that they had perished, or who knows what. And they don't know that. So to me, I like to communicate with spirits like I do people at a real time basis, because you seem to get better responses. You know what I mean? And to me,
Absolutely.
the more you actually talk to the spirits and you treat them as they were here, as as people versus bodiless entities like a lot of other people do, I feel that you get a lot more of a response that way. And you definitely get genuine responses versus the generic stuff that everybody always asks, which I don't. I tend not to do that when I go to locations. I avoid all the generic. I call it generic crap, but you get the idea.
Well, we want to make sure that we're asking questions that matter to the soul or individual. And
Mhm.
some of the stuff that we ask that's very basic, I understand if a person is brand new coming into the field, why they would ask those questions.
Yeah,
But the truth of the matter is a lot of them don't want to answer those basic questions. If they're going to communicate, they actually want to communicate about something important to them.
absolutely. We tell people prior to the hunt to be respectful. Yes, Matt, I agree with everything you have on that screen right now, especially the "when did you die" question, or do you know you're dead? I feel that that's such a disrespectful question. And it's usually met
Hmm.
with either silence or a groan or just something that's just not intelligible whatsoever, especially when you're dealing with really intelligent spirits that are able to communicate. It's very hard for for the spirit to want to talk to you if they think you're being disrespectful.
Right.
Because you know you don't want me asking you stupid questions. So why would they? You know what I'm saying, and vice versa. I believe in treating everybody with respect, no matter what side of the veil you're on. It's pretty much.
Absolutely.
Hello, Adruna. Nice to see you. Um, so I wanted to switch gears a little bit, but before I did, um, recently a few episodes ago, I had James Anito on, and I know that you went
Yes.
overseas with him to a kit to the castle.
Hmm.
I wanted to ask you about your experiences was it Dracula's castle that you guys went to?
So, oh, we went to so many castles.
When I had talked to him, because you know he said to ask you about your experiences on that particular trip, because when I talked to him, he had mentioned that you were over there with him, and I
Hmm.
said that, well, when I have her on, I definitely would ask her about it. So I wanted to ask you about, like, how was your experiences on that particular journey?
On a metaphysical and paranormal level, there is just so much energy in Romania. There, the culture there, the people there, the history there, the spirits that you see walking up and down the streets, or we were driving along to the different places, was just incredible. It was an interesting experience going into, we did a seance at Vlad the Impaler's parents' house, which is now a restaurant.
Wow.
And we had both Vlad's energy come through, and then we had the mother come through, and it was it was an incredible experience. It was an emotional experience. We were live on Facebook
Hmm.
when we did this, and we had a couple of people that were having different things come through, and it was just a very active space, but very beautiful at the same time. There was also a mansion that they went to where they had some activity. I think my favorite area, though, we went, and it was quite a drive up this mountain, but we went to a forest area. And the trees were all the way around us in a huge circle. And then there was mist that was on the ground. And there wasn't just souls from those whom had crossed over there, but you could feel other types of energies there,
Okay.
um, that went far beyond that. So it was just a very deep experience where you got to connect with spirits from a completely different place. It felt like you were in a completely different world.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow. That I can almost feel that just listening to your explanation, and someday if I get a chance to go overseas to do any kind of investigation, I would love to go to Ireland to check out some of the, like, the places in Ireland, because my family's roots on my father's side are from Ireland, and I would love to go and connect with some of the spirits over there, because you know I connect with my Native American spirits here is
Hmm.
several times in my mom's side of the family here, but I'd love to someday go over to Ireland and check it out. That's one of my go-to places. So I mentioned to you earlier, you had mentioned that you do work with pet psychology, pet psyche, and my wife came up with some interesting questions that I wanted to rattle some of these off to you, because it really had intrigued her. She wanted to know, um, when you communicate with pets, do you communicate with them both in the physical and metaphysical world, or just the metaphysical side?
Well, it kind of becomes a combination of both
Okay.
because, hi, Christina.
Hey,
It
hey.
it it becomes a combination of both because you're connecting telepathically, energetically with that specific pet, and they
Okay.
are showing you. At least for my experience, this is not all pet psychics, but they'll send images my way, and sometimes I'll hear their voice and they'll tell me specific things while images are going off. If the pet is physically in front of me, there's definitely an even more physical connection. But if the
Mhm.
pet is not necessarily in front of me, they're also energetically showing me sometimes where different points of their physical body maybe need a little bit of healing energy put into it, or
Okay.
they point out different aspects about them. Now, if the pet has crossed over,
Right.
then they basically, it is very much a telepathic psychic, like here are the downloads of information for this
Right.
individual that I receive.
Okay. And when they come to you, how do they present themselves to you? Like, as far as, like, do you physically see them
Hmm.
in their form? That's one of the things. And how does it differ when you communicate with a pet energy than it does with a human energy? Because you said that they can speak to you and they can tell you things. How is it different? How do you differentiate between pet energy and human energy?
Well, it's interesting because usually when pets have crossed over and they're the ones that are coming to me,
Hmm.
they come to me as themselves, so I pretty much know, okay, this is a pet that's coming through at this
Right.
specific point in time. But if it is a pet that the if it's a pet that the family or the person is asking me to connect with that's on this side, then
Hmm.
generally I just look at the energy and connect with the energy. It's just a different kind of vibration. It's kind of like, okay, you know how you play chords on a guitar, and each
Right.
sound has a different energy that is pushed through it.
Yes.
Well,
Yep.
that's the same for humans and pets. They represent different kinds of chords, and if you tune into it, then you get the answer.
Oh, well, that definitely makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, I was just curious myself, like how they presented themselves. Because I mean, if they can actually speak to you and you can understand what they're saying, I mean,
Hmm.
because obviously, when they're on this side, like I have cats, and I have two cats that their spiritual energy is in the house. One of them actually, honestly, today made his presence felt because he was opening and closing some of the cabinet doors, just being a kind of being a jackass like he used to be, and just having fun. He found a loose cabinet door and be like boom, 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 boom. And that actually happened to me this morning when I was getting ready to go to work. The cabinet door started doing that on its own, and I know that wasn't the physical cats that are here because they were both sleeping at the time because it was like
Hmm.
4 o'clock in the morning and I'm getting ready to go to work and I'm hearing that. I'm like, okay, cut it out. I know you're here. It's cool. Occasionally I'll see him walk by,
Hmm.
like his, I see him going walking over towards the food bowl or something like that once in a blue moon. But I was kind of curious, like how they talk to you because obviously they don't speak English on this side of the veil. So it's kind of I didn't know how they translate their their
It
language
really
to
it
you.
really does come through telepathically. Like, it's not something I necessarily hear in my ear.
It's
It's
just that you
images
naturally
that they're sending
translate.
to me.
Yeah. Okay. All right,
So
that makes okay.
with go ahead.
No, that makes a lot of sense. It actually makes a lot of sense. I
Hmm.
was just. What was the other question that she had for you? I got him. I got him over here. Give me a second. Oh, what was it? So when you receive message from the higher power, obviously, um, does the higher power send you message to for things that you to help teach people, like because you say you do
Hmm.
teaching and stuff like that.
I do.
And she wanted to know, do you receive message from the higher power that that gives you message to teach other people, like does they give you like the guidance to like to teach people or
So they will sometimes, my spirit guides, my spirit team will sometimes give me ideas of like, hey, if you taught this class, this would really help certain individuals. So, for example, if I'm all of a sudden feeling an urge to teach a mediumship 101 class
Mhm.
or, um, a pet psychic 101 class or something like that, usually that's because there's something within my when I'm doing my meditation or when I'm connecting with my guides that's
Right.
saying this is something that's needed. And sometimes other people will come to me and be like, can you teach this class on how to put together a protection, pack for someone? They call them mojo bags.
Right.
So, protection mojo bag, can you do this? And I get from spirit at that point, this is because this is something that somebody really needs within this. And so I will put a class together that teaches those. Now, if it's a topic that I have never taught before,
Right.
then I will look at what my skill sets are. And if it's something that I'm capable of doing it, I'll pull it together. Otherwise, I will turn towards community for help in those regards. So, for example, if
Okay.
somebody is wanting to know about Chinese herbology or wanting to know about something that's out of my sphere, then I could turn to somebody else, like for example within Warjuna,
Yeah.
and be like, hey, can you help me with this particular person because they want this class. So
Right.
that's the great thing about teaching is I can teach what I can teach and then I can find other people if I don't have the answer.
That's awesome. And something, because this is Twisted Tales and I take it in every direction humanly possible, we're going to go on a way left hand turn and discuss something that you and I both enjoy immensely, which has nothing to do with the paranormal or the metaphysical. Funko Pop collecting is something that I know both of us have a very deep passion for, and I wanted to take the time we were discussing earlier to have you maybe showcase a couple of your favorite pieces, and
Okay.
what made you, first of all, what made you get into collecting these lovely things in the first place? Because I don't even know what the hell. I mean, I know what caused my problem, but how did you get into the whole thing?
um, it was because a friend of mine in Utah, she would collect these Funko Pops for different things.
Hmm.
And I always thought they were cool. But then I went on this app that sells different items at discount prices. And all of a
Yeah,
sudden, I found this channel that had Funko Pops. And I was like, well, I really like that show. And I like that Funko Pop. And it's $5.
that's
So,
cool. You know,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love these things. I got involved in all sorts of. I don't even know how the hell it ever happened in the first place. The very first one I ever got, I'll show you this real quick before we get into showing some of our favorite pieces. Is I was at a Paracon in Portland. A friend of mine, Chris Sanders, was actually running the Paracon, and one of the items that was in the auction thing was a Casper, the Friendly Ghost, autographed Funko Pop by the actor who played Casper, and I just happened to win it. And next thing I know, I started collecting these things, and it took on a mind of its own. To be perfectly honest with you, I love them. I don't know how the hell I now I have like. I mean, I have like 100 of them in my collection. I'm sure you have a quite massive collection yourself. So why don't we start off, and why don't you bring on your first piece of that? I'd love to see what you decided to showcase today.
All right. So the first piece that I have, and hopefully it'll show well on the camera,
Yeah.
is this is my Guardians ship Mantis from Avengers Infinity War. Oh, okay. Let me see if I can take my background off here. Hold on. Because I'm not entirely sure how to do that.
That's
Um,
okay.
um, okay, so that's not.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to hold it in front of my face.
That's okay.
So,
You know.
can you see it?
Um. It, now you're completely blocked out. Oh yeah, I can see her now. Yeah, I can see her
Yeah.
now. Yeah. Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. She's one of my favorites because she's quirky and funny, and she says like the most strangest things, but they actually make sense. And in certain situations within the show or within the movie. So it's one of my first favorites that I thought I would show.
Nice. I'm going to show you the first one. This guy is quirky. One of my favorites is the Noid, from the Domino's Pizza, the actual
Oh yeah.
the mascot from Domino's. He was a Target exclusive. My daughter got him
Mhm.
for me for Christmas one year. I've
Mhm.
always been a fan of all the Noid commercials back in the day because it was all claymation based, and I've always gotten a big kick out of claymation. And she got them for me for Christmas, and yeah, he's the one goofy one in the collection that I decided to bring out today. Yeah, the Noid is definitely. Every time I look at this thing, it makes me laugh. Just looking at his goofy little face.
I actually saw him up for sale today on one of the apps that I was looking at, and I almost got him.
Wow. Yeah, you know
Yeah.
what? When I saw him and he was a Target exclusive, I'm like, I gotta have him. He was definitely one of my faves. So
Right.
what's the next piece you got for us over there?
The next piece that I have is Princess Leia, the Battle End base, and I'll hopefully be
Oh,
able to get
nice.
her into a setting to where she can be seen. Can you see her?
Oh, I can definitely see her now. That's pretty cool. You know,
Yeah.
that's a nice deluxe one you got there. Amazon too, huh? Yeah, she's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
That's
she's
very cool.
one of my favorites. As far as Star Wars goes, my favorite is BB-8. But as far as like the big boxes I have, this is my favorite so far.
Nice. All right, my next guy here, Art the Clown. but it's actually autographed.
Yes.
But it's actually autographed by David Howard Thornton. The actual the red print is his actual autograph on there.
Oh, that is so cool.
I got this guy at the Silver Scream convention in Worcester last year, the one that Ice Nine Kills, the band, puts on. It says,
Mhm.
Jeremy, just take one. Because he's holding the candy bowl, which is like somebody's head and has the little candies in it. I've always got I get a kick out of Art the Clown. I mean, I know it's really kind of on the gory side and all of that stuff, but I definitely get a huge kick out of Art the Clown. You know, he's the guy himself. What a nice guy. When I actually waited in line to meet him. He was so cool. You know, I definitely.
Mhm.
Sometimes you meet celebrities and you get disappointed, but he was so friendly with every single person that went up there, and you know, I'm like hell yeah. And the movies are gross, but they're funny at the same time in my eyes. So
Right.
yeah. So what else you got for us over there?
So the next one is Bellatrix Lestrange from Harry Potter, because I am a Harry Potter fan.
Nice.
So let me see if I can get her into view. There we go.
There she is.
Yeah.
That's very cool. You know.
I like her hair. I like her hair.
You know what?
It's
I mean, Harry Potter is a
fun.
big thing. I know that. I know it's heavily influenced in Salem. A lot of
Mhm.
stores have a lot of. There's like a lot of Harry Potter type of stuff up there. You know,
There
I
is.
enjoyed the movies. I felt like a couple of them kind of really did some of the characters a little dirty,
Yeah.
in my opinion. You know, that's just cool. You know, my next guy here is the Christmas edition Krampus from the movie from 2015, I think it was. He's a Hot
Mhm.
Topic exclusive. We got the little kid, a little kid in the bag in front of him. I don't know if you can. Damn glare is crazy, but
I can kind of see it. Yeah.
yeah, he's really cool. You know,
Mhm.
Gene got him for me for Christmas a few years ago, and that's what really got me going cranking on like the Halloween or the horror theme pops. I mean, I got tons of them. I love
Mhm.
the horror themed ones, you know, and you know they're so cool. I mean, the ones I collect, I'm like, if I see them at a store or something, I'm like, okay, I gotta have that one because that one like just resonates with something that I really enjoy, you know. I kind of wish I had gotten involved with these things earlier because some of the older ones are worth a freaking fortune, and I would love to have had
Right.
those particular devices, to be honest with you. But yeah, so I mean, did you bring any other ones with you? Do you have another
Oh
one?
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh
oh please
yeah.
go ahead.
I have a couple.
Yeah,
I also have, so my very first vampire that I ever was introduced to in childhood. You see it?
the Count. That is
Yeah.
awesome. He is so cool. He
He's
is so
literally
cool.
my favorite. I was so excited about getting him.
Yeah,
I fought for him, and it was every bit worth it because he's adorable. He's my favorite.
that is fantastic. That really, really is. I only got one more with me because I wanted to, but this is my piece de la resistance. This is my limited edition Freddy Krueger in the boiler room. There's only 30 of these in existence.
Oh,
Uh,
that is cool.
my buddy, Russ, he actually gave this to me for my birthday a few years ago, and then it was made by Silver Moon Customs. It's a custom Freddy in the boiler room. If you put batteries in it, the boiler room can light up. There's 30 of these in existence, and I have the only one that's autographed by Robert Englund. I actually got it autographed a few years ago at Terracon in Marlboro. And I waited in line for over 3 hours for Robert Englund. I would wait fucking 6 hours, to be honest with you, because that's how much I really enjoy Freddy Krueger and the Nightmare franchise. That's my favorite franchise of all time. So
Oh, that is awesome.
I had to bring that guy on here because it is my biggest piece. I would never get rid of that for any money in the world. Getting a chance to meet Robert Englund and having a piece that there's only 30 of them in existence. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll share a little quick story on it. When I waited in line and I went up and I handed it to him, Robert Englund said to me, he goes, "Do you want to hear a story about that figure?" I go, "Absolutely." He goes, "I knew they made these. but I've never seen one in person. This is the first one I've ever held in my hand. So you have the only one that's autographed, and he autographed at Freddie's home, Robert England. And to this day, I know for a fact it's the only autographed piece of like that one. So I have a one of one. So it's really,
That's
really,
incredible.
you know, I've got hundreds of pieces. I could go all day long on those damn things, you know. Holy shit, we hit the hour mark. I cannot believe it. It's been an amazing night,
Wow.
you know. So I always go here with my podcast, and I always ask for and I know that you have. I don't know if you're big on the horror genre at all, but we can.
I
We
am.
can always okay. Your Mount Rushmore of horror characters.
Oh,
I know it's a Johnny on the spot question. You know
oh.
there are no wrong answers, but your top 4 go to horror characters.
I mean, obviously the clown, the clown
It,
yeah, it.
yeah,
Um,
Pennywise, yeah,
also, let's see, Chucky.
yeah,
Um, let's see. I like Jason.
that's cool. Jason's always a classic.
I could say Freddy too because that's true, but I'm trying to think of another one that I really like. Probably Hannibal from the
Also, the
Hannibal
Lambs,
series. Yeah.
nice. That's he's a sleeper because that Anthony Hopkins did an amazing job with Hannibal. I to this day I love watching Silence of the Lambs. I think I've probably seen that movie. I can't even tell you how many times, and it always is an amazing movie. Now, I apologize that we didn't get a chance to touch too much on the medium frequency with Christopher because you guys have an amazing show. I do plan
Thank
on
you.
having you both coming on together at some point so we can do a show based on the medium frequency to have you guys talk about the show and spotlight a fellow show on the network because I'm all about, positivity. I'm all about raising people up. I'm all about, showcasing all of our great shows on the network because everybody's show is getting better and better every single time. And I think, everybody's been raising their game up and it's been an amazing experience being part of this whole all access family. That's my personal opinion. I love being in this genre now. It's really cool. And, I want to say thank you very much for coming on this evening. And if people want to get in touch with you for whatever reason, please let them know where they can find you.
So they can find us at through Gwen Johns, our producer,
Mhm.
or they can find me at Raven Wolf with an E on Facebook, Salem in the Moonlight on Instagram, or you can email us at themediumfrequency@gmail.com. And those are the best ways to get a hold of us. We also have our show on Monday nights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, so you can always pop in and ask questions there as well.
Absolutely. Everybody who's on here and everybody, please support all the great shows on the All Access Family Network. And for Raven Wolf, this is Jeremy Cotter. This has been a wonderful episode of Twisted Tales. Gwen, take us home, please.